Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Borough of Pompton Lakes Emergency Preparedness Seminar for 2020. Every year in our borough we do a seminar, usually in the month of March. However, this year we were kind of put on the side because of the COVID-19 virus. So we're bringing this to you via closed communication, via tape, and hopefully you will view it on the website, tell your friends about it, as well as on Channel 77. The topic this year, as in every year, but we're going to be more specific with disasters, is why do we prepare for disasters? We prepare for disasters, number one, because they strike without warning. Number two, as we've seen recently, you may have to live for days without power, water, food, medications, or other basic necessities. Being prepared reduces the danger and the stress of the incident for you and for your family. So it's extremely important that you be prepared. The four segments of emergency management are mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. And those four topics apply to you as well in your own home. In that, in mitigation, you're doing things to prevent damage or extreme damage from a disaster or a storm. And then you want to be prepared, obviously. You want to respond to the crisis as appropriately as you can, especially with your family members. And then the recovery portion comes later, when you are taking pictures for your insurance company and when you are submitting that and making the appropriate notifications to get yourself back in order. You should be, or have by now, created a basic emergency plan, which is to decide what you and your family are going to do in each potential situation. You should draw a floor plan of your home showing potential escape routes. Share that with your immediate family and your close friends and family that visit your home. Choose a remote place to meet in the event you are separated. As you may know, and I experienced it myself with my children, there are times when you turn around and for a couple seconds you lose track of exactly where they are. Well, put that on a larger scale in a disaster type setting, okay? And somebody could lose their mind in not knowing where their child is for even a minute. So choose a remote place to meet in the event you're separated from your home, or in the event that you're out somewhere enjoying whatever, and you have to, after an incident, regroup and set that up in advance. Have an out-of-area contact for everyone, a point person, if you will. Let everybody in your family know, especially your children, who that point person is. Give them your phone number. Put it in their phones. So that in the event they get separated and they can't get in contact with you, there's always an out-of-area person that can be contacted. What we found in many a disaster and storms in Pompton Lakes is that there are times that you can't call within the town, but for some odd reason you can call outside of town. That has happened on a couple of occasions. And it all has to do with the damage to the infrastructure of the cell phone and the landline system. So have an out-of-the-area contact for everyone in your family who would be that same person, so that you can regroup somewhere and relieve that stress and anxiety. As part of your emergency plan, you should know how to shut off your utilities. How do you shut off your electricity, your main breaker coming into your home? How do you shut off your water? And has that valve been exercised? Or are you going to go down and try to shut it, and because you haven't closed it in God knows how many years, the valve won't turn? If you find that to be the problem, call the MUA or get a plumber in to take care of that situation. And obviously you should all know how to shut off the natural gas coming into your home if in fact you do have natural gas. Right? Make sure you know where that main gas valve is, and make sure that your children know where it is and that they know how to shut it off in the event of an emergency. You may want to purchase a wrench to leave right there at the valve, so that in the event of an emergency, they're not running around looking for tools that they might not know where they are. Please make plans for elderly and handicapped relatives. We stress this everywhere. In our pamphlets that we pass out, we stress it at different places and groups that we speak at. The elderly and handicapped need your help, okay, obviously. Friends and neighbors, okay, if you live next door to an elderly person, make friends with that person, let them know you're in contact, find out who their contacts are, so that in the event of a disaster or emergency, you can reach out to their family members. Make sure they have their basic needs addressed for short and long-term interruptions. For example, recently we had that 4-day power outage. A lot of people were on oxygen machines and needed generators to operate that machine so that they would produce oxygen. So make sure that those different types of backups are in place. Help them when needed. And obviously check your insurance policies for proper coverage. It may be years since you've updated coverage on your home. And if we have a wind event or something else that's catastrophic, the last thing you want to do is find out that you are not covered or covered in the amount of damages that you have sustained. A disaster supply kit is commonly referred to as a go bag. And every home should have a disaster supply kit. That go bag should be ready to be taken with you at a moment's notice in the event that you need to evacuate. It should contain basic needs and essentials. Duffel bags or backpacks make excellent devices to pack your essentials, because with a backpack it leaves you hands-free. If you have children, infants, you want to be able to use your hand, you can put your backpack on your back and still have your basic immediate essentials with you when needed. You should practice packing your go bag and have a list of items needed right inside of the bag. So at the last minute, you don't have to decide and think like packing for a vacation, what am I forgetting? The list will be right there in the go bag. You'll make sure that you have all the appropriate materials that you need, and then you could evacuate the residence. Here's some of the items needed. Water. You should have 1 gallon per person per day for 3 days. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have that in the go bag, because that would be pretty heavy to carry around. But you should have that on hand in your home in the event of an outage that affects our water supply. 1 gallon per person per day for 3 days. For food, you should pack enough non-perishable food for each family member for at least 3 days. Non-perishable food. That could include canned foods, boxed foods, cereals, or what we call MREs, which are meals ready to eat, and they are sold online. There may be no way to cook, especially if the gas is compromised. Natural gas might have been turned off. In one of our floods way back when, in the 90s, they had to shut down a whole grid of gas supply. So there were blocks and blocks of people that had no natural gas, and there was no way to cook other than barbecue grills, propane, or electric. Always bring a manual can opener. Have that available in your go kit, because you won't be able to plug in your electric can opener in the event you need it. And of course, always include infant food and special dietary needs. We don't have access to them very readily. A lot of times when vendors bring in food or people donate food, different stores and restaurants, they don't include people with special dietary needs, or they may not have infant food. So make sure you have a good supply of that on hand and that you're ready to go with it in your go kit. You may have more than one go kit. You may have several, one for your significant other, one for your oldest child. You're going to want to take those necessary items with you, and they may not all fit into one bag. There are some other tools and equipment you should have on hand and ready for that go bag. A battery-powered, crank-operated, or solar radio. Okay, there are actually radios out there that you crank to build up the energy that is needed to power them. That would be the ultimate radio you might want to have. With a battery-powered radio, you have to check the batteries, change them out year after year, make sure they're fresh and that they haven't corroded. So it's a little bit more maintenance. Solar radios, they work fine provided that the sun is out they're in a place where you can charge them. Always bring flashlights with spare batteries, resealable plastic bags and garbage bags, hand sanitizer, washcloths, soap and towels, paper plates, cups and plastic utensils, sanitary wipes, toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, and other toiletries. You may want to bring a change of clothing, an extra pair of shoes and socks for each person. Have a small first aid kit on hand. Make sure it's stocked with fresh bandages, creams, salves, and those things you might need, especially if children get injured or hurt. And for your personal items, you should always bring ID, have ID on you, driver's license, prescription medications, and other necessary paperwork that you may need along the way. In case of evacuation in the borough of Pompton Lakes, you will be notified when to evacuate, unless you choose to do so on your own. If you're proactive and you watch the weather channels, whatever your favorite channel may be, if you decide to go to Aunt Sue's house in Pennsylvania for the weekend until the storm blows through, that's advisable. Okay, that is very advisable. You may want to choose to do that, so you're evacuating before an order is given to evacuate. We will notify you if and when it's a town-issued order to evacuate. Know your local evacuation routes leading you out of town. Okay, in particular, the main highways, 287, 208 in Bergen County, Hamburg Turnpike south to Route 80, 23 south to Route 80, or north, depending which way the incident is, you're going to go in the opposite direction in most cases. One of those evacuation routes may be blocked, so we may get on the Civic Ready notification system and tell you to take an alternate route. So please pay attention to that. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but if you're not signed up for our Civic Ready notification system, which notifies your cell phone, landlines, text, or emails, please go to our borough website. And on the left-hand border of the home page, you'll see sign up for emergency notifications. Please do so. Have a place to go if you are ordered to evacuate. Do that in advance. Don't wait until you get an order and then start to make phone calls to see where you can go and perhaps end up. All the hotels will be full by that time, and you're going to be left out with nowhere to go. So if you have a relative in the near area, in the North Jersey area, you may want to go there. You may want to go out of state if it's impacting our state in a very dangerous way. But these are things you should plan for in advance. Know your child's school evacuation policy. You know that there's a proper procedure for dismissing students if and when school is in session, and it's got to be done orderly, and we've got to do it so that we know we have a receipt for that child that's been taken by a parent or other responsible party that you have advised the school office about. So please take care of that. Here's something we just ran into, okay, with the recent tropical storm. Make sure your car's fuel tank is full. Always fuel up before an anticipated storm or other weather event, as school may be in short supply, and it will be during a disaster. Now, in this later weather event, people had over a week's notice that that storm was coming up the coast, and then we had people that were online for gas the day the power went out. And there was only one gas station in our town that has an emergency generator, and the line was into Wayne, the line leading to those gas pumps. And then eventually he ran out of fuel. So when you know there's an impending storm, just as in a snowstorm in the winter, fuel up, top off, and you'll be ready to go. As I said, there's only one station in Pompton that has a generator, and the others, once the power goes out, they can't help you at all. Discuss evacuation plans in advance with your family to eliminate stress. One of the biggest ways to eliminate stress in a disaster is to make sure everybody knows the plan in advance, so there's no surprises. Everybody knows the drill, so to speak. So please share that with your family and review it occasionally throughout the year. Maybe at the beginning of each season, and make your review pertinent to the particular things that could arise out of that season. For example, winter storms, thunderstorms in the spring, so forth and so on. When authorities tell you to evacuate, bring your go bag or disaster supplies kit. Wear sturdy shoes and clothing, not flip-flops, but something on your feet that are going to provide you protection. Unplug your home electronics. Lock your doors and windows on your home. Turn off all main switches and valves. You may decide to leave your electric on if you have a sump pump, so that it will continue to pump if it's a flooding type event. Always inform a relative of your destination. You may even want to call our Borough Hall at 835-0143, extension 707, which is emergency management, and let us know that you're leaving and where you're going. And we will make a list of that during a storm emergency. Or you can text us at oem@pomptonlakes-nj.gov, and we will get that same message. And watch out for washed out bridges, roadways, and down power lines. Never leave your pets behind. Many years ago, in a flood of 68, people were tying their pets up to fences in the flood area. And you can imagine what can happen in a situation like that. Please, never leave your pets behind. Be proactive. Bring your pet to a friend's house. Bring your pet to a pet shelter. We do not take pets at our shelter. It's for people only. So if you have pets, try to make advanced plans for them to keep them safe during a storm such as flooding, tropical storm, or ice storms. Make sure they have an ID on their collars for quick identification. If they're licensed in the Borough of Pompton Lakes, they should have their tag on their collar, which gives us a means of instant identification. Remember that most shelters do not allow pets, nor are they allowed in rescue boats. Okay, so we won't take a pet or an animal in a rescue boat, and we do not allow them at the shelter. Make a list of pet shelters or hotels in our area that would allow pets, so that at the last minute, if you need a hotel room and you want to bring your pet with you, you're not going to be met at the desk by them telling you no pets are allowed. So there are hotels and motels that allow pets, and you really want to know who they are in advance. If you're going to a public shelter like the one we open, our primary shelter is the Carnival Center, secondary shelter is the Lakeside School, and third shelter, God forbid if we should need it, is the high school. Know that there are no alcoholic beverages allowed, no pets and weapons of any kind, no knives, no guns, no nothing. No weapon of any sort is allowed in the shelter. Practice patience and cooperation, please. Everyone there is on edge and stressed out, including our shelter workers. All medications brought into the shelter must be secured by our shelter staff. We have lock boxes that you can lock your medications in, and when you need to take your medication, you'll come to the front desk. We'll dispense the medication with you, allow you access to it, and keep it secured. We don't want medications floating around a shelter. Stay in the shelter until authorities tell you it's safe to leave. We have a lot of people in the past that had tried to go home. We'll let you know when it's safe to do so. We don't want you going to areas that are impacted by the disaster, whether it be a windstorm with trees down and power lines, or be a flooding event, or a winter storm event. We'll let you know when it's safe to leave and at least go down and survey your home. Prepare for storms. Do simple things like clearing and cleaning your gutters and downspouts and culverts and storm drains. We have a tremendous number of storm drains in the Borough of Pompton Lakes. There's one just about on every corner, or I should say about 4 on every corner in our town. Our DPW could never get around to clear them of leaves and debris for an impending storm. They try to do it on a regular basis, but you want to do it right before an impending storm. So if you can get out to the curb and check those storm drains, make sure they're open, because ultimately it's going to affect your property and the properties of your neighbors. Clean out basement window wells. Make sure there's no debris or paper in there or canvas or anything to block the natural drain of water that may get in there. You want to keep that out of your basement as much as possible. Cover items that will hold or catch water. We've had collapses from catch-alls that have collected water or snow in the winter, and we've had roofs collapse. So you don't want to retain water or snow if you don't have to. Batten down the hatches, tie down plastic aluminum lawn furniture, protect from wind events, close your patio umbrellas, secure your pop-up tents so they don't end up in your pool, and secure loose garbage cans, toys, and pool items. Just tie them with a rope, tie them up, put them in your garage, put them in a shed, keep them in a fenced-in area. There are a number of different ways to secure them, but just don't let them blow around because they could do damage. If you hear thunder, prepare to take cover immediately. Beware of items that can attract lightning, such as umbrellas, fences, poles, and trees. Chain link fences can conduct electricity from a lightning strike. Tree roots can conduct electricity from a lightning strike. So be very careful in a lightning storm. You want to get out of harm's way. Get in a vehicle or a secure building. If you're caught in a storm, take cover immediately in a shelter, home, or car. As a last resort, if you're in the middle of a large open area or field, lie down flat in a depression on the surface. You want to make your body as flat as possible to the ground so that it's not sticking up in the air for lightning to strike it. If you have a generator, and I know a lot more people have generators now than they did before this last event. If you have a generator, always make sure that it's properly serviced and tested on some type of schedule to ensure that it's always ready to go. I heard a lot of stories of people who had bought generators, they used them once, put them away in the garage, never touched them again until the latest storm. And when they tried to start them, they wouldn't start. You must use the proper fuel with either a stabilizer in your generator. They make artificial fuel you can buy at all these big box stores and hardware stores because you want to avoid gumming and deterioration of the small internal parts that are in the carburetor. You want to run it out of fuel if you can after each use, so that fuel cannot go bad. And never, ever, ever run a generator inside your home or garage, an attached garage, or within 10 feet from a structure. We had a number of calls. Our fire department ran over 30 calls in this latest tropical storm. And the majority of them were CO alarms, carbon monoxide. And there were people who had the generators right up against the home. The people had the generators right on the deck, halfway in the garage. They're going to collect those carbon monoxide fumes, which are deadly. They're tasteless, odorless, colorless gas. So you will not know it's present. What you do smell is the gasoline. You do not smell carbon monoxide. So please never run that generator indoors or within 10 feet of your structure. And if you can, put it downwind of the building. To determine how close a thunderstorm is, you want to count the seconds between the flash of lightning and the next rumble of thunder. Divide that by 5, and the answer is the number of miles away the lightning strike was. Be prepared for severe thunderstorm watches and severe thunderstorm warnings. When you hear the warning, that means the storms have been spotted and people in the path are in extreme danger. Different types of flooding. We have flood watches, which means flooding is possible within 12 to 36 hours. A flash flood, which is different from a normal flood. A flash flood occurs very quickly, very, very quickly, and it can inundate an area, a roadway, a riverbed, or your neighborhood very quickly. Okay? So you want to be very careful with flash flood warnings. If you hear that, move to high ground at once. Be prepared for the water that's going to be coming down from wherever in that riverbed, and make sure that your family and yourself are safe. We notify you in many different ways for flood warnings. I mean, it's on every TV program out there as far as weather is concerned. It's available on the internet. Follow the storms, know where they are, know any impact's going to be on our community. We will also notify you via Facebook and also via our notification system. Did you know that cars can be swept away in just 1 foot of water? Did you know that there were over 100,000 thunderstorms in the United States each year? Did you know, and do your children know, that thunderstorms spurn tornadoes? And there are over 1,200 touchdowns in the United States each year. Did you know that you should not walk in water over 6 inches deep? It will take you off your feet, And if a manhole cover floats away, you're going to fall into that manhole as you're walking down the street without knowing about it. And did you know that hurricane winds can range from 74 miles per hour to more than 150 miles per hour, as in the Saffir-Simpson scale for hurricanes? So, Category 1, 74 miles an hour, not too much damage, but when you get up to the higher end, you should be prepared for significant damage to your home and buildings. Tropical storms develop in the tropics, travel in our area in a northeasterly or westerly direction, and strengthen over warm waters. The warmer the waters are, the stronger the storm becomes. Prepare in advance for these storms. Watch your favorite weather channel again for up-to-date locations and recommended actions. Don't wait to prepare. After a hurricane, do not drive absolutely if it's unnecessary. Report down power lines or broken gas or water mains to the proper authorities. Again, if you see down power lines, call it in. Don't call 911. Call it in to JCP&L and report down power lines. Broken gas lines, PSE&G. Of course, you're going to call 911 because gas is extremely flammable and it could explode. Check your own home for damage. Take pictures, a lot of pictures of any and all damage for insurance reporting purposes. And you will always be advised by the borough and the Municipal Utilities Authority if there is a boil water emergency. If you're not sure, boil the water. It can't hurt. Okay, you're always free to boil the water if you do not trust the fact that it might be contaminated or not. But the MUA has assured us that as long as the pipe system is not breached, okay, the water will be fine to drink. So, again, we would notify you if there were any interruptions to that. Again, call 911 only for emergencies. Our dispatchers are overwhelmed, as you can imagine, during any storm event. And we need to keep those lines open for people needing serious help. During a tornado warning, and we're seeing more and more tornadoes in the state of New Jersey over the last several years, designate a shelter within your home. Basements, of course, or storm cellars are the safest place to be. Otherwise, use an interior room or a hallway on the ground floor. If you're at school, safest place at school is in the hallways because they're supported on both sides by steel walls. The roof is supported, and it's one of the safest places to be, which is away from a lot of glass windows. Leave your vehicles at once during a tornado. Seek shelter in a sturdy building. If you're caught outside, lie flat in a ditch and cover your head. Do not get under a bridge or overpass. It could become dislodged by the tornado and end up with some very bad results. If you're inside a building during an earthquake, and Pompton Lake sits in the vicinity of the Ramapo Fault. We've had tremors in the past, and you know that if you follow the news around the country, it's also been a very active earthquake season. So if you're inside a building, stay there. Hide under a table or desk or crouch in a corner or against a wall. Use a doorway for shelter only if you know that it's very strongly supported. Stay away from windows and bookcases. If you're in a vehicle, stay inside of it, but park in a safe place away from hazards. Here's our borough emergency warnings. Civic Ready. Again, the emergency notification system. You can sign up for that on the borough webpage. Left-hand side in the column, sign up for emergency notifications. Pompton Lakes-NJ.gov. We also have sirens, 6 strategically placed emergency sirens around the borough. The warning signs are explained in our borough calendar. If you have not gotten a calendar, come up to Borough Hall to pick one up. If you're new to the borough, don't have one, we have them here, along with this emergency pamphlet that goes along with this program that I'm presenting. WGHT, 1500 AM and 98.3 is back up and running, and it's a resource for us in getting emergency notifications out. So WGHT can be listened to on 1500 AM, which was their original frequency, And they have recently, within the last year, added FM to their station, which is 98.3. We have portable PA systems on all of our emergency vehicles, as well as a truck-mounted PA system that can go around the borough. And the last thing we would always do in evacuation notifications is to go door to door. Our CERT team, which I'll talk about in a second, our CERT team is available to help us with that, along with the emergency responders, because we want to make sure that your street is not missed and there are no communication problems due to down lines, power lines, internet lines, whatever the case may be. The Emergency Preparedness Guide is a little booklet that our Emergency Management Office purchases every year. It's very up to date. The majority of the information today was taken from that booklet, and it's available to you here at the Borough Hall, at the Police Records Bureau, or at the library. So those booklets are small little booklets. They're replete with all the information about every type of storm you can imagine, and it's something you may want to sit down with your family on some particular night and review. We just recently passed them out at the movie night, which was held in the Pompton Town Square parking lot, and they were well received by the residents that were there. So please pick up a copy, read it, share the good information contained in with your family. Our CERT team. Back in 2006, our community started a community emergency response team. It is under OEM, Emergency Management, and the purpose of the team is all about neighbors helping neighbors. That's the motto of the nationwide initiative. CERT is a nationwide initiative, signed into law by President Bush, George Bush, back in 2006. We presently have trained over 125 residents, and our team consists of 60 active members that have been there for a host of different community events. If you're interested in joining our team, or if you just want to learn basic survival techniques to help your family and your neighbors, please contact Deborah Ross at plcert@gmail.com. plcert@gmail.com. Thank you. Thank you in advance for preparing yourself and your family for disasters so that we may have a well-informed citizenry. We must, as a society, teach our residents, young and old, to help themselves as much as possible, due to the fact that in a storm or disaster, many times, and most often, our local emergency responders are overwhelmed or have become victims themselves. Also, when communications are out, it would be very difficult for you to get in touch with those people that you need to help them. So learn how to help yourselves. You may want to take a CERT course. It's a 12-hour course. It's available through our CERT team. Just reach out to that, plcert@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and have a good day.